have come to visit you in peace and with goodwill.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Earth vs. Soup, episode 77. I'm Aaron Pollyea.
I'm Darlene.
Darlene's already drinking cocoa and slowing things down. We're talking about a movie that we actually mentioned in the last episode by director, what's his name now? W. Lee Wilder. We watched Killers from Space, 1954. This is fairly well known.
It has another name.
Okay, what is its other name, Darlene?
The Man Who Saved... I gotta read this. The Man Who Saved the Earth.
Okay. Did he? I guess he did. This has Peter Graves in it and is pretty well known for being the movie that has the aliens with the giant googly eyes in it.
They're actually egg trays.
Yeah, egg carton, like the bottoms of egg cartons that are painted, not ping pong balls. Everybody thinks they're ping pong balls.
Little holes with a screwdriver.
Okay. Fine. Have you ever seen this movie before? I've seen the movie poster.
I've seen parts of it.
Yeah, I've also seen parts of it just because the googly eyes are so dumb looking and iconic that they kind of stick in your head as, yeah, everyone has seen clips of this if you're into B movies, like old 50s and 60s B movies. I don't know if we're going to watch another movie by this man.
Oh.
But believe it or not, compared to last week's episode, well, not last week, I should say the last episode that we recorded, this is better.
So in 1 year, he improved.
Okay,
because he got actors that could act.
But there are things that we have seen that are very similar between these two movies, which is, Killers from Space and the one that we did last week. Oh, now I already have the name completely out of my head.
Phantom from Space.
Oh, Phantom from Space. That's right. Phantom from Space. There is lots of narration. There is stock footage.
It starts at 7:15 a.m.
They have very specific times that they mention, and there's lots of chase scenes.
The whole last part of it is a chase scene that goes around in circles in supposed to be a power plant.
But we'll get to that. Okay, we'll get to that. We have a narration right at the beginning that it is it's sunrise over Nevada. Operation A-bomb test.
Soledad Flats. It's supposed to be
Operation A-bomb test is underway. That's
Tar
what they
Baby.
call it. There's lots of racist Tar Baby stuff in this. I just can't believe that somebody would call the like an atom bomb test Operation A-bomb test. Like, that's a little too much on the nose, isn't it? There's lots of stock footage in this right at the beginning that I actually kind of like. There's a Constellation aircraft, which I always appreciate seeing. There's B-29s and an A-bomb detonates. Who would have thought with something called Operation A-bomb test?
Nice stock footage.
I mean, yeah, it's good stock footage, but
then you go to the plane that they're supposed to be in, the jet, and it goes in a weird circle and fades out, and
it's really bad layering and compositing.
Yes.
I can't even really tell what kind of jet it's supposed to be. I honestly can't. Like, it's not that good. It's not that good of a model. The special effect is really, really bad. The jet that is monitoring the A-bomb test monitors the A-bomb test. They survive somewhat near the blast, right? And then they end up seeing a flashing light on the ground. And this is like, there's a pilot, and what's his name? Is that Colonel Banks?
It's Dr. Martin is in the back.
Yeah, Dr. Martin is Peter Graves, but who's the other guy that's in it? Is it...
it's just the pilot.
Oh,
of,
they don't.
of
They
Tar
don't.
Baby 2.
Okay, so they don't have a name for him because he's pointless. Yeah, even in Internet Movie Database, he's just listed as Pilot Tar Baby 2. Wow. Well, good to know
Because
he
there's
was.
Tar Baby 7. Don't forget that one.
Good to know that he was well respected. Um, they see this flashing light on the ground, and the jet immediately goes into a steep dive and crashes. We then see like I'm just gonna all my notes say it's Peter Graves, so I'm gonna say like Graves's wife in this is called in.
Ellen.
Her name is Ellen, and the actress's name is Barbara Bastar. She wasn't in a lot, and for 1954, I thought what she was wearing was shocking to the point where I was like, Darlene, you need to put your glasses on, honey. You need to actually see this because I'm surprised that this
Okay,
got
so she
filmed.
wasn't wearing a bra.
She wasn't wearing a bra in a sheer blouse.
No, I think it was silk.
You could see everything. It's a sheer blouse. It's silk. Well, it's silk. That means it's a sheer blouse. You could see everything.
I'm glad you pointed this out that you could see everything in this this shirt.
I was
I
shocked
did
that it
not-
got filmed and actually released.
I didn't notice that.
All right. Anyway,
So Booby Boy here notices everything
it's
about
in your
boobies.
face because it's centrally put into the shot. Like
I did not notice it.
this is something that you would see in like the late 60s in an exploitation film maybe, or early 70s. I don't know. To me it was pretty crazy to see in 1954. She's being comforted by a Colonel Banks, and then we end up seeing Dr. Martin, who is, Peter Graves, stumbling right up to a master sergeant at the entrance to the base that they're at. I'm right in this, correct?
Yes.
There's some things that are confusing in this movie as well.
He had to go back and go, what is his rank?
Because there was a lot of stripes on his arm, right? There
Yes.
were. So Dr. Martin somehow survived a crash that left nothing but twisted wreckage and teeth to find of the pilot.
On a radioactive
Yeah, in the middle of like an atomic testing site. He walks up and like, isn't he wearing like a flight suit?
He is wearing a flight suit.
Yeah. He's
That's
wearing a flight
damaged
suit.
a little bit.
Everyone's like, well, Dr. Martin should be dead. Who in the hell is this? This is like an imposter. Like, I think that's originally what's mentioned.
They said. And that's why the Air Force called in the FBI.
Yeah, because they're like, oh, wait a second. Peter Graves says, nah, you know what? He's fine. There's nothing wrong with him. He feels perfectly fine. He needs to go back to work. But like the doctors go, physically, I guess he is fine, but there's these two very precise surgical scars on his chest now that suggest that somebody has done work on him. What that work is, the medical professionals are unable to determine.
And they show it. It looks like
To me, it's very clear what it is, but
a laser cut that goes one way and
yeah, it's at right angles. It's like right over his pectoral muscle, and it looks like they just opened up a big flap of skin to get at his heart. And we do learn later on that yes, there's aliens in this movie, folks, and they did repair his heart because I guess that was the only thing that was damaged on him in his massive high-speed crash into the ground that left nothing but twisted wreckage and teeth of the pilot. Anyway, they dismiss him from the hospital because, he's perfectly fine. He goes home with his wife where they sleep together in separate beds. They sleep in the same room, separate beds, but
But that's normal for that time.
That's
too.
normal for that time, but
in
having a
TV.
sheer blouse that you can see through is not.
But he wakes up at 3:00 in the morning.
He wakes up and sees two huge staring eyes floating at him, and he kind of freaks out. Now, this is something that occurs a few times in this film. Sorry for the paper rustling. I'm looking at my notes. Peter Graves immediately then calls up the base to see if there's another nuclear test and gets very angry when people won't talk to him about it. Like, this is in the middle of the night, folks. Like, he wakes up
in the morning.
He wakes up, starts
goes
freaking
to go
out.
get warm milk.
and immediately calls the base and starts screaming at people about the next nuclear test and how he has to be involved.
And I have a good laugh about this. The person there is like a airman second class
Yeah, okay.
that he's yelling at.
Yeah.
And he's older than the person that was at the front gates with the master sergeant.
All right. Well, I mean, he might have just like come in for the nuclear test. I don't know. He could be like a civilian. They gave him like a brevet rank or something like that. I don't know. Random things. Anyway, the military does do another A-bomb test, and Graves again freaks the hell out. The military is I wrote down, the military is rightly concerned about him because he's acting very erratically. His wife is concerned that he's acting like a crazy person. He came out of this crash with only these 2 little scars on him. And he's seemingly obsessed about getting a hold of nuclear information. If there was any reason somebody should suspect him for being like a Soviet plant or like a double, I mean, like, he's giving off every single like warning sign that they should have actually thrown him in jail. Yes, until they figured this out.
They put him to house arrest, basically.
Yeah.
And
but
that doesn't go well.
No, that doesn't go well, because then he immediately starts sneaking around the base, and we don't really understand why. Up until the point where the FBI walks into Graves' office, and the vault in his office is open.
Well, this was the weird thing. We've never seen him with smoking or with a tobacco pipe. And at the time of the opening the safe and that, he's got in his mouth a pipe as he looks out and spies out somebody out of the door. So you're sticking this big, huge thing
in your head. Yeah.
In your head and trying to spy on somebody.
But it's there only because Graves leaves behind a very obvious pile of pipe tobacco that is his in front of the vault. And when the FBI comes in, they go, I wonder who opened this vault, who has the code for this vault, and smokes Dr. this specific pipe tobacco.
Dr. Martin and somebody else.
There's a secretary, and Dr. Kruger doesn't smoke. He must be communist. Actually, the FBI pretty much says immediately, well, Peter Graves is a big piece of crap. We need to go find him. And an APB is actually put out to look for him. And there is missing classified data happening. All right. So chase scene occurs, right? Where nothing really happens, but Graves ends up going out to the middle of the desert and puts these classified papers underneath a rock in the middle of the desert. And then flees.
No, he's caught by Briggs because he cold cocks FBI Briggs.
Yeah. But he tries to flee and then he's caught, is what I'm trying to say.
Well, he gets caught by the gas station attendant.
Yeah, the gas station attendant actually ends up calling the cops.
And then gets into an accident because he's seeing googly eyes.
Googly eyes, yeah. He ends up seeing googly eyes on the road. He crashes his car. Mind you, his car is a beautiful old Studebaker.
And it's still in play later on.
Untouched. He wrecks that car, and it's perfectly fine later on. He wakes up in the hospital after this massive car wreck. Unharmed, again. Seemingly unharmed. There's nothing wrong with him. And he starts screaming, they'll kill everyone. We've got to stop them. I have that specific quote written down. Darlene gives me a look. No, that's when he's in the hospital.
They give him a truth serum.
Yes, right after he says that.
Oh. I'm sorry.
Yeah, he starts screaming this, and they pump him full of truth serum. And the doctor there says, this truth serum is going to stop him from having any kind of imagination. So once he starts talking here, we'll hear the truth. That's basically what this is. So Graves starts talking, and he was delivering the papers. Yeah, he admits to it. He wants to tell his story, though. And he just regained consciousness. And then it's all told kind of in a flashback here.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
He regains consciousness after the crash, and he's surrounded by these large-eyed aliens. They're operating on him on like a
table that looks like the
Dance Dance Revolution
table.
um they're inside a cave, though. They're inside a cave, and this leader this leader ends up talking to Graves and kind of giving a whole bunch of meaningless garbage. Hold on, I know
The
exactly
one
what
thing
you're
that
going to
says-
say.
We speak every language.
Yes.
I am a scientist like you yourself.
Graves
Ugh.
tries to escape. There's like a very short chase scene. See, it's these chase scenes with this director, and they stop him escaping with some sort of electric field that kind of like locks him up. The aliens explain that their saucers are magnetically propelled across the electron bridge. That's how they're able to move through. That's an exact quote from the movie on how their saucers are able to move across the light years. Magnetically propelled across the electron bridge, whatever the hell that means. The leader alien says that Graves actually died in this plane crash, and they just fixed his heart because his heart had stopped. Like, he wasn't vaporized. The pilot was basically vaporized except for his teeth. Graves is completely fine. His heart just stopped for some reason. Like, it's a miracle. But judging by the car crash that happens in this film and everything else, I actually think Peter Graves' character is actually indestructible. Like, that's the only real explanation. Like, he's Bruce Willis from Unbreakable. Like, yeah, you can kill him if you slam him into the ground at Mach 2 in a radioactive crater and have him trapped inside of a burning aircraft.
That didn't work in the first one.
It stopped his heart. It stopped his heart. Maybe it was the burning aircraft fuel.
They're also from Aston Delta.
What, the aliens?
Yes.
Sure.
And they show you a picture of what on the screen?
Random sci-fi looking buildings that are meaningless. They also say that they invaded planets that are nearby them, but their star is dying and they need a planet to move their 1 billion people to. And now here, hold on. Those two statements that they made, this entire like 5 minutes of this long-winded explanation, are completely contradictory. Because he says, we invaded these neighboring star systems and took them over and moved our population to them. Then they immediately say, our homeworld star is dying. We have 1 billion people, and we need to find a planet to move them to, and Earth is our target. Wait a second.
And we've got platforms.
Yeah, we have space platforms and all that. So we have a very contradictory kind of statement. Like, why not move your 1 billion people to these dozens of other worlds that you invaded and took over that have huge wide open spaces in them? Because you just showed us pictures of it.
I kind of thought that maybe he was talking about other planets in that solar system.
He talked about other star systems.
Oh.
Even showed different stars.
Okay.
But we have your classic problem of alien invasion movies of why bother invading a planet light years upon light years away when you have the technology to build space platforms, which they also show. You could build big orbiting habitats that have fusion power, etc., etc. But these aliens are clearly dumb. Very,
if you're
very
at
dumb.
the, what is it called?
What? No, they're not even at that level. You're thinking Kardashev levels, and
yes.
it doesn't matter. If you have the technology to move between star systems, you have the technology to mine asteroids, mine comets, and build space habitats. You will have no problems building enough habitats to house your entire population if that's what you want to do. It's a Dyson swarm. And with 1 billion people, you don't even need that much.
And what really got me was they were going to move 1 billion of their people to Earth.
with tiny little saucers.
And yet they said we had how many, even in this film, if we take it as just this film, there was 4 billion people on the planet,
on Earth,
on Earth.
3 billion.
3 billion. I know they gave him number of more than 1 billion.
But they have a plan to take out humanity by breeding giant
Oh, that comes
animals.
next.
Yeah.
We get cage after cage of tarantulas,
This was a crazy...
lizards, cockroaches, a grasshopper, another lizard, a horned lizard, and then a lizard eats a scorpion.
Oh.
As you hear crickets and frogs in a night noises.
Yeah. So what this is Graves again tries to escape, and we get this long chase scene.
And
but
he's
he
going
keeps
around
going
the same thing.
He keeps going in and out of caves that are filled with giant insects and all these animals, while the big-eyed alien is just kind of laughing and toying with him. And it came across to me as, honestly, this big-eyed alien screwing with his mind, until it comes across as, well, until the alien basically says that they're going to use these to kill off this menagerie to kill off humanity, and that the more atomic testing you do, the more radiation we have, and we can mutate these animals further. And I'm like, this is like a nightmare.
Then the alien says, because Martin Gray, the person that's playing
Peter Graves is the actor.
The character is Dr. Martin.
Mm-hmm.
He asks, how are you going to get rid of all these large creatures? And that's gamma rays.
Yeah, and they cook a cockroach on screen, and it actually looks like they actually are killing it with like a heat gun or something like that. Because it's smoking and twitching.
But we know that if we get hit by gamma rays, every living thing on this planet
enough of them,
goes nothing.
But that's their point. That's how they're killing off the animals after they kill humanity.
But it says that they'll be able to use that to get life going again
by mutating, like low amounts of it. But here's another one of these really kind of contradicting statements. The aliens are storing energy from the atomic tests, right? They also have spaceships that are able to go across light years. They're afraid of an overload for some reason, and it turns out that they're hooked into the power grid through like an illegal wiretap, and that they're
directly from
like the power plant. And for some reason, they're unable to generate their own power, even though they have their own spaceship there. Like, and you're storing up all the energy from these atomic tests to use. Well, I don't get it. It just, yes, these things can work together, but it's so dumb if you kind of try to figure out why these would all be true. I don't know. I think the aliens are completely crazy, and this might actually all be in Graves' mind, because it's so kind of contradictory and weird. Anyway, Graves is then hypnotized to forget everything and go and grab all the data that they need. We then flash forward back to the hospital.
And put it under the rock.
They flash forward back to the hospital. No one believes Graves. And to be honest, I wrote down, to be honest, his story is crazy. No one should believe him. They should think he's a communist spy, and he's trying to get out of this.
But the doctor that's a major, says they gave him that truth serum,
and that therefore he should be telling the truth. Anyway, Dr. Kruger, who's like this other guy that's been working with them, ends up going out to the rocks and meets an investigator that's already there.
The FBI Briggs.
Yeah, and they're like, I thought I'd come out here and actually look for this like entrance to the caverns that Graves described. And he's like, you're wasting your time. There's nothing here.
We've already looked. There's
nothing here. Graves keeps hallucinating alien faces, and he keeps freaking out about the aliens being out to get him. Graves then attacks some people in the hospital and yells about getting Dr. Kruger there to talk to him. And Graves is just like brought back to his room and starts working on a math problem.
Needs pencil, paper, and slide ruler.
This is where he comes out with the whole aliens are tapping the main power lines, and if we shut down the power, they'll all die for some reason.
And this goes into our 15 minutes of running around in a power plant in circles.
Okay, so he
it's the same
isn't.
thing.
Here's the thing: he's not just like released to go do this.
No,
He escapes again, and there's this big chase scene. Graves ends up fighting innocent power plant employees and then holding a gun to one guy, saying shut off all these circuits. And when they do, what happens, Darlene? There's a fusion bomb explosion outside of the window.
The same one that's in the front of the movie.
No, it's a different one. It's a different one.
It looked like the same one to me.
I wrote down all the power is cut. Then 8 seconds later, there's a huge fusion blast that occurs right outside the window. Everyone's
dead.
okay. Everyone's okay.
We're dead.
Like it's stock footage of a fusion bomb test
on the window.
Like here we're gonna green screen it onto the window
through blinds,
and everyone's like, "Wow, Peter Graves, you were right all along." Like when we shut down the power, their power plant overloaded that they didn't have. That you also explained they needed to have taps to the power plant because they couldn't.
Anyway, that's the end.
Yeah, it goes the end. So while I have just complained about this movie again, it is better than last week's.
Yes, I will give you that one.
It comes across as a disjointed nightmare hallucination. That's what it comes across as.
He was in the LSD program.
He was in the early LSD tests in the Air Force.
That's what this is.
Honestly, if I had to actually have a rational explanation for this movie, it would be this is Peter Graves' near-death experience as he's dying, and it's his brain trying to put together whatever madness there is. I don't know, because it's so weird. It's not a good weird. It's not like watching Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, where it's so messed up but artistic and bizarre that you're kind of engrossed by it. This is confusingly weird and disjointed.
But it's less confusing and disjointed than the last one.
But it's less so. Are we going to recommend it?
No.
No, of course not. But what worked in this movie, Darlene?
It was better acting.
Okay, no, not better acting. There was actually good acting in this. Not better acting. There was good acting. Peter Graves.
And the dialogue kind of in some places made sense.
Yeah, but that's not what worked. What worked is like, here, I will actually say this is what was good in this movie. Not just it was okay. Like the dialogue was okay, but it's not this worked. The only thing I can think of that worked was Peter Graves is a class act regardless. He was good but not excellent in this, but it's something that I will say it worked. If it was like a low end B movie actor in that role besides Peter Graves, this would have been nearly unwatchable. With Peter Graves, and I will say the other thing that works are the goofy big-eyed aliens. Why? Because they're so goofy you can't help but watch. She's just giving me a look. Darlene, what
if that's to you that was good of the movie.
No, not good. It worked because it kept me engrossed going, why did they think this was a good idea? Why? And all the actors are like stiff-backed and like scowling to keep these things like trapped in their eye sockets. And
yeah.
Why? But I mean, it worked because it is so weird. It's so weird and goofy. It was supposed
to have cotton around it, but they never got to the point, so they probably did have to scrunch their face.
Awful looking. But it worked because
and those
so
eyebrows.
Weird. Yeah, they're like weird bushy eyebrows that they had.
It looked like
in
somebody
black
stuck
spandex dance outfits
with some kind of what are those called that are around your waist?
A
And
cummerbund,
cummerbund.
like a space age cummerbund. Yeah. Can you think of anything else that worked?
No.
Yeah. Okay. I'm like
Um,
no.
because this, I'm like, when the chase scene goes, this one's worse than the last one because at least those were hallways. This was seeing the same door, the same.
Cave entrance.
No, I'm talking about the running of the power plant.
Oh,
It was
sure.
just, you were going through the same rooms, and it was like 4 rooms of it.
Sure. So are there anything that clearly doesn't work in this movie?
The chase scene.
The chase scenes are awful. They're boring. They drag on and on.
And the
They-
continuity of deaths.
It's not as the chase scenes aren't as bad as the previous film, but again, it still doesn't work. They're boring. They drag on for 2 or 3 times longer than they really should. It's clear that the director is trying to fill time with them. Because that cave sequence, you could have shown a single giant animal in it. Just one. You could have shown
The
that
tarantula.
the giant tarantula that was in there.
I actually made the joke of, oh, this is where tarantula got its tarantulas.
There's a giant
and them
cricket.
got there, but they didn't even have an ant.
There's a giant cricket in there, and there is a Peter Graves film that we will end up watching where he fights giant crickets.
It's not a cricket, that's a grasshopper.
Same thing.
No, it's not.
It
A
is.
cricket is black.
Darlene, was it a no cricket? I've seen green crickets, camouflage crickets. I've seen locusts that are different colors. I mean, it all depends on where in the world you're from. It's a grasshopper, it's a locust, it's something.
And they made the ridiculous noise for the grasshoppers.
Like, it's weird. What I'm trying to say is you could have used one creature and gotten your point across. Instead, you turn this thing into a chase scene that lasts like 5 minutes, where Graves is reacting to a composited shot where he doesn't know what he's looking at.
And he's going around the same fake...
the fake rocks, like the same fake rocks over and over and over and over again.
That really made it bad. I could see... I know, it just seemed like they had a pet store invasion.
The other thing I feel does not work is that there are lots of named characters in this. And I use characters in a very loose sense because there are no characters in this film. I'd even go so far as to say Peter Graves' character is not a character. I mean, honestly, Peter Graves barely passes the red letter media test. But beyond that, none of the other characters are that way.
So describe him without describing
his profession or what he's dressed like or looks like. I think Peter Graves barely passes that. Now, mind you, I can't even remember his character's name again. Is it Martin?
It's Martin.
Okay. He's concerned about the world and trying to fight his compulsion to help the aliens, because the aliens have been manipulating him. He's willing to go to great ends to sacrifice his own career in order to stop the aliens and to prove that he isn't crazy. Like, it's very weak what I'm trying to argue with his, like, he barely passes that test. He barely passes it. But there are tons of named characters, quote unquote, in this film that don't even come close to being able to pass that. It's a cast full of nothing. And it's a shame. Like, don't have characters there for that. Why do you need like all these side characters that just really don't even have lines? Maybe they might have 1 or 2 and then they're
like
just kind of
wife.
there. Like his wife
I
is
was
just
like,
a complete waste of skin in this.
Oh my God. He was horrible to her.
Just treating her like crap and blowing her off. And
he did it in the movie too.
It's never really talked about either. She just kind of puts up with it. You know, in a lot of these movies, we do see women in positive roles. This was meek housewife gets verbally abused and ignored.
She doesn't get verbally
she's like
abused. She gets ignored.
he yells at her to go and get me certain things while, in bed. I don't know. I didn't. Graves' character is just kind of an awful person too, but it might be because he's being like mentally manipulated in a way. That's possible.
But that first scene, he's not supposed to be mentally manipulated.
Yeah, he is. As soon as he wakes up, he's already, because remember, all the hypnosis stuff is in a flashback. When he goes home.
But before he gets onto the oh no, that is afterwards.
Yeah. All of it is afterwards. Yeah, it's all because it could all be down to mental manipulation. But we don't recommend this. Is there anything that a modern filmmaker can take away from this movie?
No, I don't think so.
Positive or negative? Don't fill up your movie with meaningless characters and pointless chase scenes that go on too long. If you want to have a chase scene, use it well to keep people engaged. If you have it go on too long, or
they're going to go to the bathroom and turn off the TV,
or they're just going to ignore what's going on because it's too boring. Like, oh yeah, it's somebody running around the same rock over and over and over again. So yeah, I don't know what we're going to do for our next film. I don't know
either.
But yeah, we don't recommend this. It is, there are funny bits in it, like just ironically funny ones with the googly-eyed aliens. If you're really into Peter Graves, because I mean Peter Graves does have a really large filmography, obviously you should watch this in that case. But I'm not that thrilled with it. So, any final thoughts, Darlene?
No, not really.
Okay, folks. Well, we hope you enjoyed listening, and we'll talk to you next time.
Good night.
At no point in your rambling, incoherent response were you even close to anything that could be considered a rational thought.
Thanks for listening to this episode of This Week in Geek. Hungry for more? Check out our website at thisweekingeek.net. You can subscribe to the podcast, browse our Twitter and Instagram, and leave your thoughts on today's topics. If you'd like to give us some feedback, send us an email at feedback@thisweekingeek.net. Tune in next time, and remember,
lower your shields and surrender your listenership.
We would be honored if you would join us.
Thank you for your cooperation. Good night.